Like most weekend mornings in the summer, Matt and I are out here trying to get stuff done. He's already been out here for probably an hour and a half mowing and weed eating. We have a lot of weed eating to do. But one thing we've got to get done today, we hope to spread some mulch, but I've got to prune the rest of my tomatoes for the first time. We have several different beds, and we've already got all of them except those that we planted in the grow bags. Those were kind of the ones we were trying for the first time this year. Now you might ask, well, why are we pruning? Why do we prune them? Well, the tomatoes that we grow are mostly indeterminate varieties. Heirloom varieties are often indeterminate. Maybe all of them are. I'm not sure about that. But what that means is that they will continue to grow throughout the season all the way till frost if you give them, proper support. If your bugs, the bugs don't damage them and tear them down. If nothing unforeseen happens, if they do their best life, if the tomatoes do, they will grow and produce all the way till it's too cold for them to produce anymore when cold weather gets here. So the area that we live in is really humid and hot in the summers, but very humid. And a lot of people in our area fight what's called blight, tomato blight. It's where your tomatoes, they just overall can't thrive and can't survive because they're attacked by that blight. I've heard all kinds of stories over the years that it lives in soil and different ways that people look at it, and some people believe if you have it one time you'll always have it, those kind of things. You can do a lot of research about that and go down a real chasing a squirrel on that and read all kinds of information. Thankfully, we've never had to really deal with blight. We might someday, but so far we've not in all the years that we've gardened. But what we do for pruning is that because of that the moisture that's constantly in the air here, we trim back on the lower, and I'm going to show you how we do it, but on the lower part of the stalk, the main stalk of the tomato, we trim it back. And that gives a way for air to really circulate through all the plants. Because we don't have much room, we plant our tomatoes really close together. A lot of people will say, you should only do 4 feet, like keep them 4 feet away. We never do that because we just have a small space. Over the years, we've learned what works for us. So of course, you just need to learn what works for you. But trimming them actually gives that air room to circulate and helps with some of those maybe blight or mildew or just where they can't get enough air or sunshine, either one. It also helps with, as you trim off a lot of the leaves, I'm not trimming off blooms, but trimming off kind of limbs of the tomato plant that are never going to produce. They're not going to have blooms on them, and I'm sure there's a scientific name for them, and some of you probably know that. But as you trim those off, also all the plant's energy can go into producing and into, if you have tomatoes already on the vine, into producing bigger tomatoes, better tomatoes. It's kind of like it can divert its energy to that place that's needed more. Now, when I was growing up, Pap never trimmed his tomatoes. Oh, he might, if something was in the way or falling out or something out of his, he used kind of I think it's called, some people call it the Florida weave, but kind of a weave to keep his tomatoes upright. But he never really pruned them at all, ever, that I remember. He never even thought about it because he didn't know about it, or he didn't think it was necessary. And he did produce tomatoes, so I don't guess it was necessary for him. He did not usually grow heirloom varieties. He grew hybrids. But so it's not that everyone has to do this, is what I'm trying to say. You just have to find your own way. But for us, because we do plant so close together, and because we live in this climate, which Pap was living in the same climate, but where it's really humid and hot and things really grow. If you've been watching my videos, probably all you need to do is, like if you're a regular viewer, imagine what it looked like, or you don't have to imagine, you watched it, or you can go back and look at it and then see the growth from then till now. In the summer, in southern Appalachia, it is truly like we're living in a rainforest, a jungle. It takes on a jungle quality, and by the end of summer, I'm ready for that jungle to go away. It kind of gets where it just looks dead and it's so overgrown, everything is, because no matter how you try to keep the edges of your yard or the edges of your field or something, weeds and brambles and stuff, every year it's amazing how fast they will take back over. And so if you decide that you want to prune, if you want to try this, and you should just experiment and see what works for you, it's one of those things. Probably the first year me and Matt tried it years and years ago, we were kind of like, we seen it, read about it, we had gardening books, we seen videos, all those kind of things, but then we were kind of nervous, like you're destroying the plants, kind of what it feels like. But after you kind of do it a few times, you realize that tomato plants are, well, all plants really want to grow, but tomato plants especially are vigorous. They really put out shoots and are constantly growing. So you get a little braver about doing it. There have been times that I accidentally snipped where I wasn't supposed to snip. That happens too. Usually, like I said, the tomato plant, if it's healthy, it's vigorous, it will overcome that. But the more you do it, basically, just like anything else, the more experienced you get, then the more confident you feel doing it. But you might be like Pap. You might prefer not to do that. And especially if you live in a climate that's not as humid as where we live. It's just so humid. When Katie was out west, if you're, my daughter took a trip out west, if you're new to the channel, but when she was out there and we were all talking about it I was talking about it, Corey was talking about it on their channel, different things. One of you left a wonderful comment about how that you were from out west, but you had, I think it was that you had family in the east, in the mountains here of Appalachia. And how wonderful it was when you were a kid and you'd make that long trip in a car, and the closer you got, you could begin to see things greening out and all that kind of stuff like I was talking about a minute ago. But then also that you could actually felt like you could taste the air, that you could actually taste it. It had a taste to it. And I thought that was so interesting. I've never been out west, so I don't know the opposite. But one of my dear friends who grew up just over the mountain from me, she's lived out west since we were out of high school. And she's often told me over the years that it is different. She's like, it's different. It's colder because they get more snow and all that kind of stuff. She's in Montana. But it's different. It's a different kind of cold. It's a different kind of hot. It's just different, she said, and it's the humidity. That's the difference in it. So I just find that part fascinating when you think about it. But if you live in a place that is much drier, then you may not even have to worry about that. So as always, I just want to show you how we do it, but then you should do your due diligence and investigate and research like I did all those years ago when me and Matt first started wondering if that would help our tomatoes. And then as we began to do it every year, we saw it really did help them. So it's something that we do every year. And you don't just do it once, too. I should mention that. Because tomato plants are so vigorous, it takes several times of doing it, and a lot of times I let it get away from me, like I've let those get away from me. We've had a lot of rain, which has been great, kind of the afternoon rain, and that's when I prefer to do it, is in the afternoon. This is the morning, but I'm going to do it anyway because I've just got to get it done. I prefer to do it in the afternoon, though, because everything's dry and there's no dampness. But anyway, between that and just obligations that I've had to do, it's just one of those things that gets away from you, and then you've got to catch up. So sometimes I don't do it as often as I should, but I would say I trim them back like that at least 3 times during the summer, sometimes 4. And it does really help our production and helps our plants stay healthier for a longer period of time. We're beginning to see tomatoes on all our plants now. You can see this is one of the Juliets. You can see that little bunch right there. I can't wait for them to get ripe. As I go up the plant, you can see some more back in there. I don't know if you can see those, but the plant, this one's really full of tomatoes and full of blooms, which is a great thing. So this bunch of tomatoes right here is our Cherokee Purples, and we've already trimmed them down once. You can see we've got some tomatoes growing right back in there. And you can see the leaves are wet. That's what I was talking about. I would rather do this in the evening, but this evening I can't do it. I can't do it tomorrow evening. I can't do it the next evening. So it's just like I'm going to have to do it this morning. But these have already been took care of. And we did get those done one evening this week. But you can see right here this little clip. I was talking about Pap like to use the weave, Florida weave. We've used so many different things over the years. We've used other clips that didn't really work worth a flip. Most often we've used, you can see right here, a piece of it, is we've used a type of string or twine or something. That almost feels like yarn. Maybe it's just been out here so long. Anyway, different things to actually secure them. As they begin to go up, if you use cattle panels, you can kind of weave them in and out of the panel there, but you need something to attach them, and these little clips do work really well. I think we got these off of Amazon, but you might be able to find them from some kind of grower solution or one of those. And there's other clips too. Like I've said, some are better than others. These actually work pretty good, but mostly over the years what we've always used is just some type of string, seagrass twine or something like that. Now you might notice this tomato, you can see how far back we cut it, totally cut it off. So why I did that was because it was, who knows why, but it was diseased. It wasn't like it was blight, it wasn't that, but it just kind of died on the top of it. And I looked for bugs, no bugs that I could see, and of course the ones beside it are fine. So who knows, you never know what happens to a plant. But before I totally take it out, I cut it all the way back and then see if maybe it'll come back out green. You can see right here is nice and green that's at the bottom, but the top part of it, I don't know if something, who knows, I don't know if some kind of insect damaged the top of it and then took off to another locale. It wasn't really like insect damage though, it was more just like dead. It was just like it died for some reason. So we'll cut it all the way back and then we'll see what happens. If it doesn't come back out like this, if it doesn't continue like that, we'll just pull this plant up. One thing I've really loved about the beds back here in the back this year are the nasturtiums that I planted. I just think they're so pretty. Every time I come back here, I just love seeing them. See that beautiful bloom hiding in there. I plant nasturtiums every year. I have for, I don't even know how I ever first found out about them. And they are edible, so that's a good thing. They taste really peppery. They have a good taste to put in salads. But normally I only plant them in my flower beds. And somehow this year I just thought, what if I stuck one in each corner of the raised beds back here? So I did, way back when it was still really cold. I was kind of thinking about that process of how volunteers, the seeds will fall and they lay there all year, all the cold winter, all that, and then they come up on their own. And when I talk about volunteers, I had somebody ask that, what do I mean? I mean a seed that has dropped from last year and then sprouts and grows on its own. We would call that a volunteer, like you didn't have to plant it, it volunteered to grow for you. Anyway, I was thinking about that, how wonderful that is, and I thought, well, I'm going to, even though it's really still freezing at night and all that, I'm going to go ahead and put my nasturtium seeds out there, just one or two in the corner of the beds and see what happens. Well, it worked fine, as you can see, and I've so enjoyed them. I think I'll do that from now on. So you can see Matt built this out of wire and the T-post. He built this last year when we had tomatoes in these grow bags. And as they come up, it kind of really holds them pretty good, but sometimes you need to tuck them back inside. It's kind of a, I guess, a variation of the Florida weave, but not using twine, using wire. And we can also clip to it too. But you can see these really do need to be, it's kind of when you look down inside them, you can see it with the humidity and stuff, how there just can't get any air down in there as the summer goes. Some of these out here beyond me are even worse than this. So you can see right here, I would just go really close and trim and just begin to go to each little plant. And, you know, as I said, you just kind of need to do this over and over every year to kind of learn what works for you. But I start at the very bottom. And a lot of times, so let me find a better example. I'm not going to use that one. I'll show you in just a minute what I was talking about. And I'm going to have to really get in here good because I've let this totally get out of hand. So you can kind of see these, see how that leaf, how it's coming off and kind of hanging down. That's not going to produce any tomatoes. So that's a good one that you can just cut. And a lot of ones on the bottom, that's what they'll look like. That's another one. You can see they just kind of hang down like big arms. So back here, you can see, here's one of those long arm ones that I was talking about. So I'm going to trim that. But then right there above it, kind of, some people call that the armpit, but kind of the crotch, that forms a little crotch, there's one growing straight up. Well, that one hanging down, like I said, will not produce tomatoes, won't bloom, but this one growing in the crotch will. It will begin to bloom and it will actually produce tomatoes, and people call these suckers. Those are the suckers. So it's again up to you whether or not you would remove them or not. I'm going to remove that one because I'm trying to get the airflow. But what you can do with this is if you take it and put it in a glass of water, just in a few days you'll have roots come out the bottom of it, and then you can go plant that like another tomato plant. So that's a great way to extend your tomato plant into the future, kind of, as you know, if you think of succession planting as far as tomatoes go. We don't usually do that because we plant so many tomatoes. We just deal with the ones we've got, And then come, you know, August or whenever, we're ready for the tomatoes to be gone. We're usually typically, you know, ready for them to be done and kind of let them die out on their own. But that's definitely a good way to extend it by, and it just takes literally a couple of days and you'll begin to see little white roots. And a lot of people say you don't even have to put it in water. You could just kind of stick this in some moist dirt or moist soil, potting soil or something like that, and it would grow on its own. I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but you can see all those little hairs tomatoes have, and those are really just waiting to root. They just want to root with something.
Put my fingers back on and get asked about that.
Yeah.
Things
You call them suspenders or galluses?
either one, both.
When I wrote about that the other day, most people said they thought of galluses as your overalls. You like to wear overalls?
Not much.
You used to have corners.
I used to wear them a lot, but I don't. They're too hot.
Does that dent them up against your chest?
Yeah, it's hot, and I can't stand to be hot. Don't like it.
Papa Wade always wore overalls every day of the world. Except on Sunday, he didn't. He wore dress pants and a shirt and a tie, but...
Well, they didn't have back then all the choice of
well,
what you do now.
He did in his later years. He could have, I mean, when I was, you know, when I was grown, he could have wore them. He just preferred overalls, I guess, because that's what he'd always wore. And probably knowing him, because they last a long time, you didn't have to, you know, it's hard to wear a pair of overalls out, ain't it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, also call them panty jacks.
Panty jacks.
Mm-hmm. Keeps your panties jacked up.
Oh, gosh.
That one's actually mine.
I figured, yeah. You could make overalls, make a comeback and start wearing them.
I can't stand them, they're too hot. I mean, I like them in the fall, but not in the summer. I can't wear them.
What?
The stuff we planted, what is that?
That's all the winter squash. Don't it look good?
Yeah. That stuff's going to grow out in the road.
Yeah, it's going to grow in the road, and down the hill, down the bank, over your trailer there if you don't move it.
I'll move it for them.
It's funny, they're looking that good. On the other side of that trailer where the melons are, they look good. Do you look at them, and then you're like, well, they're stunted or something.
Well, it's a different plant.
I know. I guess that's it. We gotta figure out something to keep the birds from getting my blueberries. I was gonna buy some. Oh, I was gonna buy, but then I saw where Justin Metcalf uses he's doing it for corn to keep the crows out of his corn, but I wondered if it would work. You take old VHS tapes, the inside, you know, the actual film, and and then after I seen it, I've seen people do that, but I didn't know what it was. But you stretch it across like in a, you know, anyway, and it constantly moves, and it keeps the crows scared off. So he like put poles all through the field and then stretched it kind of all around. But I wonder if you could do that somehow around them, if just that little movement would keep the birds away. I don't know. Probably have to do the netting though.
I don't know if you can spray them neem oil.
And what?
Neem oil.
Oh, neem oil? I don't think you. I don't know. I don't know how that'd let the berry develop and get ripe. I don't know. Some years, they don't touch them. Actually, in all the years we've lived here, I mean, in Grove blueberries, there's been 2 years. One year, it was just like, I would be like Granny and say somebody come in the night and stole them. They were all gone. And then last year, they wasn't all gone, but they were eating a lot of them. I could see them. I was paying attention and I could see them. But then the year before, nothing. So I don't know what it is. Maybe some years they need them more than they need something else.
I don't know. Gosh, them things have been there 20-some years, ain't they?
No, a long time. They're old. Those are kind of in the back, and I think maybe those two. Most of those come from Solly.
Mm-hmm.
But there's 2 of them, maybe those 2, or maybe just that one that was Hubert Kirkland. You remember him? He gave me one. Give me 2. One or 2.
School?
Yeah.
Yeah, vaguely. Is he still living?
I think so. I was afraid he had passed away or something, and somebody, one time, maybe it's Carolyn, told me that he got married and moved off, not really far, but out of here.
Got married?
He got married, yeah.
At that age?
Yeah, I reckon. That's what she
told
told me.
Got no better sense than that. He's old enough to know better by then.
Yeah. I think it was Carolyn, because he's a carver. He told me his mama, one of the things, and he grew a garden and all that, that's why he gave me the blueberries, and he's where our original asparagus come from. He gave me the seeds. But, and it's the purple asparagus, which I think is better, and he thought it was better. Anyway, he said when he was growing up, his mother and daddy, of course, grew a big garden like everybody did. But one of the favorite things they loved to grow was parsnips. And he said in those days, everybody grew parsnips in this area, in this country. But not, I mean, I don't know anybody that grows parsnips now.
No.
Myself, I mean.
You like them?
Corey and Katie love them.
Yeah.
They love that parsnip stew. I asked Mama or Granny if her mama ever cooked them. She said no, she didn't. She said, but she had one aunt, Aunt Susie. I think it was Aunt Susie. One of her aunts would make parsnip bread.
Never heard of that.
She said she had the recipe. I need to get her to make it. So Matt and I have managed to get those tomatoes done and also to weed eat and mow everything. Then we got sidetracked by him on one side and me on another trimming stuff. When you live, just like I was talking about the tomatoes being a vigorous grower in our climate that we have here in the summer, everything is vigorous in the southern mountains of Appalachia. It's just amazing how much stuff grows each year and then how it all dies back during the winter. But it is like living, they say it's a temperate rainforest. It really is, isn't it?
Yeah.
You just can't believe the growth in each year. So it's a constant battle especially if you live in like a remote place like we do, kind of, not necessarily remote. What am I looking for? Rural? I don't know. Where there's not a lot of pavement or concrete, I guess is what I'm saying. It's a constant battle to keep it beat back every year.
Yeah.
And then you get it beat back and you're like, that looks so good. Now that will be a done deal for a good long time. Nope.
No.
Next year it's back.
Yeah, and then you kind of you don't see it until it's growed way out in the yard.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you see it and think, my goodness.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens really quick.
Yeah, it does. When we first moved in, of course, when we first moved in, we didn't have as large of an area as we do now. Not that we have a really large one, but we had even less then. But anyway, then we had some grading redone, and at the top of the bank that surrounds our house, the ridge kind of line, there's some huge pine trees. Well, we knew they were big, but they wasn't that big then. And then in the blink of an eye, they were so big, and then they were a danger to the house if they had blown over. So it was a whole ordeal, which Matt had to do it, him and one of his buddies, to cut them. It was something, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was stressful.
Yeah, but it's, anyway, I remember Pap was still alive then, and so it took several days, and it was just big doing, so everybody was watching and paying attention to what was going on. But he told Corey and Katie, said, now you two remember that, and you make sure that those next trees that's right under them don't get like that, because the next time they need to be cut, your mom and daddy will be too old to cut them. Yeah. You'll have to do it. Your daddy won't be able to. You'll have to get somebody to do it. So he said, make sure you keep them cut before they get there.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I'm sure they've got that on.
Yeah, well, we don't either. We've not. I mean,
yeah.
Time just goes by so fast. You don't think about it. Now that I look up there, I'm like, yeah, those are, I mean, they're nowhere near as large as those others, but they're getting, yeah. But having to beat it all back is a price I'm willing to pay to live in a place like this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we hope you enjoyed kind of seeing how we do our tomatoes. We're not experts by no means. Everybody, I think, just needs to find their own way. But for us, that's what's worked for all the years that we've gardened. We usually have really good tomato production, enough to eat. That first tomato sandwich is what Matt's always looking forward to. Yeah. He can't wait. Go out there and get that warm tomato and bring it in and slice it and put it on some bread with some mayonnaise and salt and pepper.
Lots of black pepper.
Lots of black pepper for Matt. He's always looking forward to that, but we also always grow enough to put up. We get to can several runs of tomatoes during the summer. So that's just the method that works great for us, but we hope that you'll leave a comment and tell us. Maybe you live in a place where you don't prune them or don't need to, or you never heard of it, or you, like Pap did, and you just don't even fool with that, and you still have good tomatoes. That's great too. So leave us a comment and let us know about that. Now that we've finished our popsicle break, we're going to get on the mulch. If we can get the mulch done on our big part of the garden, then we will have laid by the garden for this year, and we just need to maintain it and harvest that wonderful produce it's going to give us. So be sure and drop back by often, though, and help us celebrate Appalachia.
Well, now the sun's hitting over right nice.
I know, we'll get a suntan. We don't have to do it today. Let's just try to do part of it. I've got to go to the, I don't know. I've got to go to the community center like at 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock or whenever Kim told me to be there. I don't know.
We'll just jump on it and see what we can do. I mean, we can get it done. It's just make no fun.
Well, maybe our strategy could be, well, we'll have any strategy. I was going to say, do all the plants first and then fill in. That way we don't get it all filled in.
And what I'm going to do is go down the rows or go between the cow panels
first
and just start dumping, and then from those piles you can spread.
Okay.
And that way, because part of those places you can't get with a wheelbarrow, like on the back side of that, there's not enough room, so I'll just go down the middle and dump it heavy, and you can reach under and pull it.
Yeah.
Or I will, whatever you want to do.
Can I plant?
I hate for you to have to do anything strenuous. I'm too pretty to work hard.
Oh, you're so sweet. Crazy. I work hard every day, though.
I know.
Not as hard as you do. Can I plant flowers?
Where?
Under the mulch.
Whatever.
Just in certain places. I didn't tell you, but I really did have flowers that you dug up by accident.
Where
you know, where you protected the ones you was proud of that you protected at the end of the tomatoes?
Yeah.
In between the tomato rows I had some, and then on the other side I had some too.
Oh, how am I supposed to know that?
I don't know. I thought I told you. Anyway, can I put some, throw some down and put some back there? I can just put them under the mulch and I think they'll grow.
You remember you did a video not long ago about Granny planting the beans and the corn?
I know. I said I was like her. I said I had inherited it from her.
just whatever you want to do, but just let me know so I don't dig them up.
Yeah. Well, I thought I would put those two back, some marigolds and some zinnias is all I'm going to do. And then like right in front of the okra, I was going to do some marigolds, but they'll stay pretty low. They won't get high.
Well, that's what you're going to
Yeah.
do. Just let me know where they are so I don't mess them up.
All right. All right, we must get up, right?
I suppose.
1, 2, 3, jump.
Yeah. I'm too old to jump. I can get up, but I can't jump.
Okay.